Yep. Good morning, everyone. So yesterday we learned about some event topics. So yesterday we discussed some event related concepts like we learned about what is event and what is event handler and what is event listener. So we discussed about what are event arguments and default event arguments and custom event arguments. Custom event arguments. These concepts we discussed about events. So all these just repeated concepts of JavaScript, and I explained what they are in our previous class. So event uses one software design pattern. What is that software design pattern? Event follows one software design pattern. And what is it? So its software's design pattern is what? Observer. We discussed about observer. And event handler, event listener, different. What are those? Event handler is configured for element. Listener is dynamically defined. And arguments carry the payload. And two default arguments are there. Default arguments, this and event. Custom arguments means you can send your own arguments. But one problem is that event listener can have only one default argument. Actually, event handler have two default arguments. One is this, another one event. Event listener have only one default argument. One default argument is present. So then how to handle both? So one important note is, because yesterday we learned already event arguments. What are event arguments? So event listener can have only one default, only one default argument, only one default argument, that is event. However, it provides access to both event and element details. It provides access to both event and element details. How one argument can access both of them? Event listener cannot have two arguments. It can have only one event argument. This mechanism is followed in your React also. In React also, it uses event listener mechanism, not event handler mechanism. It uses a listener mechanism. So here we have only one event argument to handle. Then how it can access both details? So point is, so we have any element, document, query selector, some button. To this, we are adding event listener. Event listener is using click and a function. This can have only one event argument. It can have only one event argument. That event argument is a formal name. You can give any name. So that is just a formal name. Only one argument can be there. Then how it can access element details and both event details. It can access event details directly. So event details are accessible directly using event. Event reference. Directly using event reference like what? E dot client X. So like E dot client Y, E dot key code, E dot CTRL key, right? And after that, element related details if you want to access, then element details are accessible by using, we have a target reference, by using target reference. So actually it will be E dot target dot ID, E dot target dot name, E dot target dot src, E dot target dot class name. Like this we can access. So event related details can be directly accessible. Element details are accessible with a target reference. There is a target. Actually, if it is event handler, two arguments are available. One is this, another one is event. This will get the element details and event will get event details. But that is possible only in handler. It's not possible in listener. So listener have only one argument. That one argument allows both element details as well as event details. So that is one new point you should know. So event arguments, two in handler and only one in listener. So for example, you see here, suppose we are having a button here. So button have an ID, BTN, insert, button have a name, insert, like this we are having. Now we are writing a script. So on load, body load, and function body load. And here we are accessing get element by ID, BTN, insert, add event listener. Event name is click, and the function, this function can use only one argument here. Earlier we have two arguments. What are those two arguments? This, another one, event. But here you have only one. Only one argument is allowed. This one argument can access all details. If you want console.log I am using, it can access event details like X position. How it can access E dot client X. Directly it is accessible. In the next line, I am giving suppose control key used or not. So E dot CTRL key, it is directly available. Suppose I want element details like button ID. then it is accessible through e.target.id. Suppose I want button name, then e.target.name. Like this we can access. Only one argument, it can provide access to both element details as well as the details of event. So this is event listener. So when I run this, you can see so button, I will give some text as insert, okay. And in this console, let's observe the console. In the console, when I click on insert, it gets both details. X position, control key used or not, button ID, button name, all information will come. So event handlers use two arguments and event listeners will use only one. Here there is no place for custom arguments. You cannot have custom arguments. Custom are directly passed through various function techniques. Here you have only one argument. So that event argument allows both details. So this is example for event listener related argument. That is event listener arguments. So yesterday we discussed about event arguments. So one important change about it is in listener only one argument is allowed. Right? Next, while working with event, another important point you should know is what is event bubbling. So what is event bubbling and how to this is actually asked in another way also. What is event bubbling, or it is an asked another way like what is event propagation? Event bubbling, event propagation, both concepts are same. So we call as event bubbling or event propagation. So in JavaScript, you will come across with another concept of event bubbling. So how this event bubbling actually works. So it's very popular question in React interviews. So event propagation, event bubbling, these are very popular. Even at MNC interviews also, these questions are very common in React and Angular like technologies. What is event bubbling and propagation, and how do we control this actually? Suppose what is the concept here is we are having a nav bar. So this is heading nav bar. In this we have a button search. So just I'm adding some style wherever nav is there. So border 1 pixel, solid black, okay. Padding 20 pixel I give it. So we are having a simple design like this. Now I'm writing on click for nav bar. This is nav click. I'm writing on click for button. On click is this is search click. So we are writing a script. In this we have a function nav bar nav click. I'll just keep an alert nav bar clicked. And we have a function search click, and we are writing alert as search clicked. Okay. So what is the point is I am clicking anywhere inside the nav bar. So then it shows an alert nav bar clicked. I click in the search button, then it says search clicked. After that it says navbar click. I am not clicking the navbar. This is a very common issue that comes while designing apps because you written event for child and parent. This will not happen for every event. Only few events have this issue. That means if I am using a drop down in the nav bar and for drop down I am writing change, it will not have any problem. Why click is having a problem? Why click is having a problem? Because click is a push event. That means click is you are hitting it, and when you hit the child, it will push the parent also. That means it's just like on a door, there is a bell. You press it the bell, then it will make the door also feel that it is pressed because that vibrates. This is called propagation. Propagation means I am clicking child, but parent also working. Because when you push the button, the push that vibrates this parent also. That means that it simulates the parent also. That means when you push the button of parent, even parent knows it that you pushed it. That's the reason parent event also working. But I haven't clicked nav bar. This is a very common problem in JavaScript. So you designed some nav bar, search bars. Obviously every nav bar have a search bar these days. And you type something in the search bar and click it. Nav bar is working, search bar is working. So when I click nav bar, only nav bar clicked, no problem. When I click search, search clicked, and after that nav bar is clicked. So this is called event bubbling in JavaScript. Event bubbling is a mechanism where the child event simulates the parent. We need to prevent this. We need to stop this. So how we can stop? Only child should work. It should not simulate the parent. So event propagation or event bubbling. So event bubbling or propagation is a mechanism where the child event can simulate the parent, where the child event can simulate the parent. It leads to propagation of events in a parent-child bubble. It is nothing but why people call this bubbling or propagation. Bubbling is nothing but suppose you have a parent bubble. Inside the parent bubble, there is an child bubble. There is no chance to touch the child bubble without the parent. A bubble inside another bubble. Can you touch the inside bubble without touching the parent? No chance. So that is the mechanism. So you are using child means parent also automatically executes. We need to stop this here. So we need to stop. So the question is how to prevent propagation of events. How to prevent propagation of events? By using event argument method stop propagation. By using an event argument method called stop propagation. By using this method, we can do that. Event arguments have a stop propagation. event argument will have a stop propagation. By using the stop propagation, we can stop that. That is one important method. It is the method of event argument. Event argument have this method called stop propagation. So what we do now is, who is the child event here? Child event is search click. Search click should stop after it. It should not propagate to parent. So then it needs an event argument event. Then we have to collect the event argument E. With a reference E, I am collecting. You can use any reference name. And what this E have? A method called stop propagation. That is the method. So stop propagation is the method of every event. If you write event for a child which is in a parent, and parent also have event, then the child event will propagate to parent. So this will stop this now. You see, I click on anywhere navbar is clicked. It shows navbar is clicked. It shows navbar is clicked here. And I click on search now. It says search is clicked. After that, okay, then it is stopped. No more navbar click. That means after the child, the parent events are not propagated. But parent event is individually working. When you click on the parent will be working. When you click on child, it will not simulate the parent now because you stopped the propagation. If you remove this, that means you are removing the propagation. Then obviously search is clicked. After that, nav is clicked again. We need to stop that by using stop propagation, right? So this is one syntax here. So we have a function on child click. On child event, we have an event argument. We use e dot stop propagation. So that is how we can prevent propagation actually. So whenever you are writing events for child, this is important if the parent is also having an event. And this is not required for every event. Why? Because every event cannot simulate the parent. Only the events like click, so they can simulate. So another option is, this is okay. For this, I will give this example. This is the example for that. What is event bubbling and how do we prevent? Next, important, after understanding event bubbling, another regular important concept is how to disable the default action of element. So how to disable the default action of element? This is also one regular requirement. In JavaScript and HTML, when you design some elements, you know JavaScript elements are so many types, right? Elements are categorized into so many. Actually, what are different categories of elements? HTML elements, we have normal elements, we have void elements. So elements, we have RC data elements, we have raw text elements, we have foreign elements. These are categories of elements in HTML. And we have some behavioral based elements actually. What are those? We have semantic elements, we have non-semantic elements, we have generic elements, we have non-generic elements. So we have block level elements, we have inline elements. These are all different types of elements in HTML. HTML have different categories of elements. And these are all interview topics only. In many interviews they ask, can you name some block level elements? Can you name some semantic? Can you name some generic elements? And what are generic elements? What are semantic elements? What are foreign elements? What are void elements? These are all interview questions. So in web developer interviews, they will not ask you how to write a heading paragraph. Right? They will not ask you how to put a color. Right? They all school level. In school itself, that HTML finish. In interviews at MNCs and everywhere, all questions will be like this. What is event profiling? What is event bubbling? What is event listener? That's how the interview happens. Right? So any full stack developer have to face this. You are a full stack developer. That means interviewer thinks you are genius in the world, even if you are not. Interviewer thinks that, oh, this is high profile, full stack developer. That means he knows a lot of technology. Right? We expect full stack developer means genius in software technology. Right? That means we expect so many from a full stack developer. Because these days they have to manage everything end to end. That means he can manage everything end to end in an application. That's the reason these days interviews also becomes little complicated. Lot of in-depth questions, lot of complicated questions are asked even for fresher. Now imagine for experienced people how they ask. Right? So for fresher itself, they are asking very in-depth. Earlier they used to ask such questions to experienced people. For fresher, they are asking architectural level questions these days. You need to get prepared with all those things. So here another regular problem you will face is how to disable default action. What is default action? How to disable default action is, suppose, let's take another example. Actually, we have a form. In the form, we have a username. So input type is text. And here we have a name called username. And we have a button, submit. Form have a event on submit. So form submit is the event. That means here I am writing a script. You know that form have a submit event. Huh? So form submit, and on form submit I will keep an alert. Alert is nothing but form submitted to server, something message. Actually, so in this design I have only one functionality. Whenever user submits the form, it should show this alert. But actually, you already learnt that in HTML, you learned that form is a generic element. Form is a generic element of HTML. Why it is generic element? Because even you don't write any functionality, form have default submit functionality, default reset functionality, default validation functionality. Form have default action also. That means form is a generic HTML element. Generic HTML element means even you don't write any logic, form have some functionality. It will validate your values, it will submit your values, it will reset your values. Even you don't write logic. By default, it have functionality. That means in HTML, there are so many elements which have a default functionality. Even you don't write the functionality, they have functionality. Now what is problem? Already we are saying that form have a submit functionality and we are writing submit again. Form have a submit functionality and we are writing submit again. Because by default it has submit functionality, but I want some extra work to be done on submit. Then I given that extra work. Now what will happen? Form will submit 2 times. One, your logic. Another, its default logic. It will work 2 times. That should not happen. That means I written a functionality, only my functionality should work. If it is having any default functionality, stop. We don't want any default functionality. So what happens here, you see now, I written only alert to happen. But see what it does. I entered some name and click on submit. It shows alert. So my functionality working. Okay, fine. When I click OK, it has default functionality. It is submitting in URL. It have default functionality. That means my functionality finished, alert. But I haven't asked it to submit to URL. It is submitting. That means every form have a default submit and that submits the data in the URL. Because default form method is what? Get method. On get method, it submits all its data in the query string in the URL. So what is the problem is HTML elements, all elements are not generic. All elements are not generic. That means they don't have default functionality, only few. So all HTML elements are not generic elements. That means they don't have default functionality, but some elements have. And when you write any event for them, both functionalities will work. The default functionality will work and the custom functionality also works. I don't want default functionality to work. I written some work, it has to do only that. Then what you have to do? How to stop default functionality? We can stop default functionality. So by using the event argument method, we have an event argument method called prevent default. Stop propagation and prevent default. We have the default can be stopped by using prevent default method. Event argument have a prevent default. That means syntactically, suppose form submit is there. It uses an event argument which uses e.prevent default. It have prevent default. You can stop the default action and you can allow only your action to perform. That is possible by using this method. Stop propagations, that is important, and prevent default also important. Right. So this is how we have to handle the events. Event related some important things you need to know. Let me show you here how do we stop. So into this we need to pass an event argument. We have to collect E and what to do? E dot what? Prevent default. That's the default action we need to stop. So this is now ready. I entered some name. I click on submit. It shows alert form submitted. After that, it is not submitting in URL. That means it is not doing the default functionality. It is just performing only what we asked it to do. So we can stop default functionality. That is possible by using this technique. This is mostly used and required for application. These all are the concepts up to now you need to know related to events. So this is all actually, these are all JavaScript related event concepts. These are all JavaScript related event concepts. So people who come from JavaScript background, they should all know about these things. Generally, everybody knows this. JavaScript events means these all topics are important. Now in React, how to use these events we will see. In React, how do we use these events? How do we work with the events? We will see that. So while learning some more technical points you will learn about events. Some more are there you will learn here. So to use events in React, first you should have a idea of events of your JavaScript. And in JavaScript, these all topics will come. Events, event handlers, event listeners, event arguments, and default arguments, custom arguments, and how to stop the propagation, how to stop the default actions. These are all basics. Now we will see how React uses these events, how to handle the events. Now one more concept you should know. What is the concept is, suppose we are having button. So what is event for button? We have a button. What is event for button? On clicker. Events are not related to elements. Events are not related to elements. Actually, events are related to browser window. All events are related to browser window. All events are related to browser window. And this browser window related events can be used by your elements. That means button on click doesn't belong to button. On click belong to window. Window can attach it to anybody. It can attach to a div span also. You know, div also can be clickable. Span also clickable. So click is not related to any element. Events are not related to any element. All events are related to which object? Browser window. That is the reason these are called browser events. So HTML, JavaScript all uses browser events. We use browser events. All are browser events. They are categorized into so many. So here you need to know one more point here. So what are browser events? It's not a new thing actually. Events are browser events. All events of window, all events of window object are used for elements. So which are known as browser events. We call them as browser events. So, and you already know they are classified into various groups. Like what? You have mouse events, keyboard events, button events, clipboard events, timer events, touch events. These are all different categories. Element state events, form events, These are all different categories of events we have in JavaScript. In JavaScript, all events belong to browser, and the browser window object provides these events. And events are of different types in JavaScript. In JavaScript, you learned all these different types of events. Mouse events, keyboard events, button events, clipboard events, timer touch events, element state related events, form events. So these are all the events. Now what is problem is these are all related to browser. And what is problem with um, React is not using actual DOM. React is using virtual DOM. Then how it will use these events? That means how React can use events if React is not using actual DOM. That means React events are virtual events. They are not actual events. They are all virtual because React uses virtual DOM. So in React.js, all the events are virtual events. Those virtual events interact with actual events. So how they interact is, this is what you need to know now is, so we need to now discuss about React events. Up to now, yesterday and today, I explained you about JavaScript events, which you generally learn in JavaScript. Now, what you should know about React events and what is the main difference is actually React uses virtual DOM. It uses virtual DOM. So React virtual DOM cannot use the browser events. React Virtual DOM cannot use the browser events. Then what happens is React provides a library. Provides a library called synthetic events. Synthetic events. React provides a library called synthetic events. It provides a library called synthetic events. So synthetic events are virtual DOM events that map to actual DOM. Synthetic events are virtual DOM events that map to actual DOM. So in React.js, we cannot use directly the actual events. So because they belong to actual DOM. So React developed a library called synthetic events. They designed one synthetic events library. This library have all events. Synthetic events library is having all events. So React people, what they do, if they want to write event, they write in synthetic. And these synthetic events will map to actual DOM events. They will map to actual DOM events. So synthetic events are virtual DOM events. These will map to the actual DOM. So generally what happens now is, so here developer writes synthetic event. So synthetic event like suppose on click, that is a synthetic event. It maps to actual event. actual event, that is on click, that maps to actual event, that is on click. Here very important, the capitalization. So on click is not same as on click. Both are different. Both are different. So this camel case event, this is what? That is synthetic event. Synthetic events are always in camel case. They are always in camel case representation. And you write in lower case, that is actual event. That means actual DOM event. There is difference. Later you will see so many others also. Actually in React.js, form is different from form. Both are different. Button is different from button. Both are different, not same. That means we have a separate button with uppercase letter B. We have another button with lowercase b. That both are different actually. This is very important thing you should know. Later you will see that, right? So the synthetic events, developer writes all synthetic events. They handle virtual DOM, and these synthetic events will map to actual events, actual event. So technically, all events are derived from a library called synthetic events. Synthetic events. So we can see that actually. So we can see. Suppose here I am writing some function, some insert click. That is a function. Suppose we have a button here. So we have a button, and in this button insert, and for this button we have to write event handler here on click. On click is equal to, so I should use which one? Insert click. Just roughly I am writing like this. I'm just roughly showing you this. Now the point is just insert click. Okay. Now let's see, right click on this and go to definition. You right click and go to definition. Actually, you know, in your OOP languages, when you are learning any OOP language, either C++ or Java or C# like OOP languages, in OOP languages, what is reflection? What is reflection in Java? What is reflection in C++? What is reflection in C#? In OOP languages, you have a concept of reflection. What is this reflection? Don't know. So reflection is an API available in all OOP languages. Reflection API is available in every OOP language. Actually, you know, suppose you have a class. In JavaScript also you have classes. In general Java, C#, C++, you have a class, some employee. Now this class is not designed by you. Some other team people have designed it. And what you have to do? You should use that class and design some application. How you know what that class contains? You are a developer. You are working in a project. You have a team. Another team of your project is designing classes. You are using those classes and building an app. How you know what members that class is having? what properties it is having, what methods it is having, how those properties and methods function, what they written, how you know as a developer in Java or C# or any OOP language by using reflection APIs. So we use reflection APIs. They will track and give us detail about every class that we are going to use. That means I give a object, it will get me information about complete, which class it is derived from, what properties it is having, what those properties written, what functionalities it is having, what functionality they written. Everything is tracked using reflection. So in your technologies, you can actually do that. Suppose you see Java reflection API. Reflection APIs are present. This is Java reflection API. So Java reflection API, it is in Java. And what Java reflection API is, it allows the developer to inspect. It allows the developers to inspect and examine the properties of classes. That means you are developer. You haven't designed. For example, your trainer who is training you Java, he is teaching you that Java have a class. In that class, these are the methods. How he knows? How he knows that Java class is having those members? Through reflection APIs, developers learn about them. That means a developer knows the complete infrastructure of any OOP concept, any OOP interface or classes. They know by using an API called reflection API. And Java, .NET, C++, they teach you this reflection API because you can't be a developer without this knowledge in real time. Because in real time, there will be no trainer sitting beside you and tell you that this class have these members, use them. So in real world development, you are given with a class, you should know about it and how it is possible through reflection APIs. We write a program, that program will return all the details of any particular class. You can try that when you Google C++ reflection, you Google Java reflection, .NET reflection, you will see simple sample programs. They will show you how to track a class. Why I'm showing this? Because here also we have that. Because actually React is completely built by using TypeScript language. We are using React with JavaScript, but internally React is designed with a language called TypeScript. Later we will learn TypeScript also, and TypeScript is an OOP language. It is an OOP language. Entire React.js is built with TypeScript. It is built with TypeScript. So companies use with both React with JavaScript as well as TypeScript. So it is an OOP language. That is the reason you see now here reflection shortcut technique is there. What a developer can do, right click on that particular event, go to definition. Go to definition, it will take you to the location how it is derived. You can see on click is coming from where? On click is derived from mouse event handler. Okay, right click, go to definition. Mouse event handler is derived from where? Event handler. Okay, right click and go to definition. Event handler is derived from extending from synthetic event. So synthetic event is the base, it is the interface, it is the base for all events. Synthetic event is derived from base synthetic event. Base synthetic event is the synthetic event which provides all of them. You see target. I told you na E dot target. You see stop propagation, prevent default, right? How a developer knows that event have stop propagation? How a developer knows that event have prevent default? Because they use reflection APIs. By using that, they can know everything about that particular class. They know everything about a particular object. That is very important in real world development process. So technically here important is I just tracked that to show you. That means actually you see React is using a TypeScript library and that is using a base synthetic event. So all events in this React are derived from the base. What is that base? Synthetic event. Now developers will not write direct events. They have to write only synthetic. But these synthetic events are not understandable to browser. Browser don't understand synthetic events. So it will translate the synthetic event to the browser event. This is the basic functionality. So you can say that synthetic event is the base for all events, in React. All events means mouse events, keyboard events, anything. It is the base. And here, so it handles all browser events. It handles all browser events using event map technique. By using an event map technique, it handles all the browser events. The synthetic events will map to the actual events. So that is the synthetic events. And all these events are same. That means as I showed you, mouse events, keyboard events, everything is same. But here one more important is there. So we will learn about all these events, how to use them. We'll learn about these events. But what is important is, so React synthetic events include, we have the categories like same, mouse events, keyboard events, same. We have clipboard events, button events, touch events, timer events, form events like this. All these different categories are there. I will explain all of them, how to use them. So React synthetic events are same like browser events, but they are not actually browser events. They map to those browser events. Now what is the another major concept is, your JavaScript can use any event to handle two-way binding. Your JavaScript can use any event to handle two-way binding, but React cannot. That means actually, suppose we have a text box. In this text box, we have some name. Now this name is coming from a variable called uname. It is having some John, and that value is coming from some variable reference. It is displayed here. When I do any modification, this modification should update here. When I do any modification, that modification should update here. Now in JavaScript, what event you will write for this text box? When it should update. When it should update, what is the event you write for text box? You can write on change. You can write on key up. You can write on key press. You can write on key down. You can write on blur. We can write any of them. We can write all these different types of events. JavaScript can handle two-way binding using several events, but not React. React can handle two-way binding only by using on change. It cannot handle two-way binding using other events. JavaScript can handle two-way binding with other events, but in React, two-way binding is handled by only one event. And what is that event? On change. Any another event is not suitable. That means you are saying that text box will not have key up, key down? Yes, it will have. On key up, key down, it can do other things, other work, but it cannot handle two-way. It can be used for any another reason, but it cannot be used for two-way bind. For example, I will show you here. So that is very important now. Actually, in your HTML JavaScript, usually what happens is we have a name text box, input type text, txt name, and we have some paragraph. Now we are writing here event on key up. Okay, get name. Okay, so I am using a script. I am using a function get name document.query selector paragraph inner HTML. I am displaying hello, and the name coming from document get element by id txt name dot what value. I am writing some logic here. You see now, when I am clicking something and typing something here, so it will get that and display here. On key up, I am doing. On key up, I am allowing to modify, collecting the new value and displaying. Okay, let's try another event. Instead of key up, I will use here on blur. On blur. Then you enter something. After finished, you click outside, that is blur. On blur, it will update. That's also working fine. That means JavaScript allows you to update the data, handle two-way binding through any event, but not React. React allows two-way binding only through one event. What is that? On change. Let's try here. And important is here another major point is in React, we don't recommend to use the DOM methods, document get element by ID. Then how you will collect value from text box? How you will collect the value from drop down text box? So here, no get element by ID, query selector, nothing. Then how do you transport data from a text box to its function? We have to do that. We have to do that by using event arguments, payloads. We learned na? Data is transported by using arguments, default arguments. And see here now. Let's see this now. We will put here a simple reference here now. Okay. We have a username. This is username. I put a text box. Input type is equal to text. and value I am keeping as user name. That means in state there is some value, we are attaching that to the text box, and we will put that below in a heading hello, and we will put username. So this is okay. npm start, okay, that's okay. Now let's write one function. We are writing a function get name, and this get name function should execute when user is typing the name, when user is typing the name in text box. Then here I am using some event like on key up. I am using on key up. On key up, which function to execute? Function should be dynamically attached. Dynamically attached means binding expression is curly brace, and which function? Get name. So here it properly follows delegate mechanism. That means I told you event uses a delegate mechanism. Delegate means what? Function pointer. In function pointer, you know, in your JavaScript what you are doing, get name parenthesis. So that means it is like a call of function, but actually here we are not calling, we are pointing. That means just name is enough, right? Now you see it will point towards that function. Okay, we will try to get the value of this text box and store in this set username. So set username, it should get the value from text box, no DOM methods. Then how it will get the value from text box is every event method is having default event argument. This is a listener, and by default it have event argument. And what is that event argument? Event. And through event we can access event details and we can access element details. Just today we learned now how to access this text box related details. We have to use e dot what? Target dot what? Value. That means the text box value is stored here. We don't have any DOM methods here. That means collect the value from text box and store inside the state. That means you are collecting the value from the text box. So this text box related value is collected through event argument, and that value is assigned to the state. We are assigning the value to the state. Now see here, I will open. Here I click and trying to type something, it's not working. But I return event. On event I am collecting the data and updating, but it is not working. If it is JavaScript, it was working. So I am using another event. What is that event? Instead of on key up, I will use on blur. Suppose just now you saw on blur also, it was updating in JavaScript. Now see, I return on blur and I am clicking here trying to modify. It's not working. That means two-way binding can happen only through one event. What is that? On change. If I attach on change, now you can see that I click here, I can modify. So two-way binding can be managed only through one event, and that is on change. Any element, if you want to get the data from the element and use the data, then it should use on change. So that is in React, this is one important here. So React have support for various events, but it can manage two-way binding only with on change. Only with on change. So then what is the purpose of other events, key up, key down? They are used for several other reasons, which I will show you later how to do that. But first, to collect the data from any element and update, you need on change. That means you are writing for a text box, then it should use on change, on change, on change. And here, so this is the function name. On change function name. Suppose you are writing a drop down, then it's also have an on change. So the function name. Any element should have this. Just roughly I'm giving. So any element should have on change. Another important is the delegate function. The delegate function can access element value by using default event argument. By using default argument. By default event argument. For example, here we have a input type text. On change is equal to get name. Just this is a get name. That's the event name. We have a function called get name. It uses an event argument. The reference is just E. Through this, you can access E dot target dot value. That's how we can define. If you want, you can get E dot key code, character code, control key. Event arguments are directly accessible. But element arguments are accessible by using target reference. Now remember, this is what React says. React says that we are very strict in data binding. We have only one way binding. You try to use any another event and modify the value through those events, we will not allow. They will allow you only with one event. What is that? On change. Actually, other technologies that support two-way binding, they allow any event. But here it is mandatory that it should have an on change. That is the reason React says it is good, but many people have a complaint. Like, this is not great in so many occasions. That means, you see, on YouTube, when you try to learn about any technology, on YouTube, when you search, you will find that many high-level technicians are not satisfied with Angular, React and all. They are not satisfied with that. They are okay, but at certain levels, they fail. They are not very great. That means current software technologies, all companies, what they are using, they are okay. Not great for every reason. That's the reason many technicians are not satisfied with these technologies. And in their companies, they use different. They say that, okay, your React Angular are there, but we are not satisfied with your React Angular. We want more better. That means they are saying that React Angular is not great, more better. For example, just like you see Google. As I already told you, Google Maps. Do you trust Google? But Google Maps will not show you correct maps every time. Am I right? Then how you trust? That means on Google, whatever you see is correct. Eh? No. Google have a lot of mistakes, right? That means Google has developed something and you simply follow. That means Angular belongs to Google. React belongs to Facebook, Meta community. Whatever they developed, they are great. Eh? No. Even they are very high professionals. They have some issues. That's the reason real-time projects, in for experienced people, they ask technologies like Backbone JS. You never heard about that, but it is very popular in MNCs. But outside, nobody teaches this. And you don't even learn this. You don't even know this. But several companies ask Backbone JS, right? Because it is very high professional in certain areas, more better than React and Angular for them, right? So, but you don't know. Why? Because you think that something's buzzing around you is popular, right? Something is buzzing around you, you think it is popular, but there are so many technologies which are high level, more than this. So why we are discussing this point? Because in many occasions, React doesn't satisfy developers. I told you that every element needs an on change. Now imagine you designed a form. In that form, 10 elements are there. From 10 elements, you have to collect value. Then actually in JavaScript, what you do? Get element by ID, all 10 elements you can get now. But in React, what you have to do? For every element, you have to write on change. There are 10 elements in a form, then 10 on change events you have to write. This is not satisfying. That means in that occasion, you will say that my JavaScript is better than your React. You will feel that. That is the reason React, what it says that, okay, you don't follow the same technique. You use some third party. By using third party, we can simplify this for you. But the original way, it is very tough. For example, I will show you. That means if I ask a React developer to design a form which contains 20 elements, he need to collect all the data and submit to server. Then literally it's a very complicated program in React. And for that they have third party. I will show you, see here. I will show you npm.js. Yeah. Let's see, there is a third party called Formic. Formic is a third party for designing forms in React. Formic is a third party for designing. Yeah. Formic is a third party for designing. You see Formic. Formic, you see what they say? Build forms in without tears. What they are saying? What does it means? It means that if I ask a React learner to design a form to collect data from the form and use it, he will cry. He will literally cry. Why? Because, sir, what big task you are giving to us. And this is for JavaScript person, after all, nothing. Because JavaScript person will use get element by ID, all elements he can access simply. But in React, he need to write on change. That means 10 elements, 10 on change. And that is not satisfying. And many people are not satisfied with this. Then React way of doing work is not great. So we will take help of third party. Now third party says that don't cry. I know your problem. I have a solution for you. You try this. That means React completely depends on such third parties. And developers are very satisfied with these third parties because when they use this third party, they become better than others. That means they become better than JavaScript, they become better than Angular, other technologies. That's the reason these third parties play the key role. So now we have to learn how to implement this. That means we need to learn how to handle two-way binding. So for that, you need to know all the event concept. Everything understood? Na? That means now we need to learn the example of two-way. Two-way example means how to design a form, collect the data from the form and use the data for submitting to server. We have to learn third party as well as how React does. And we will learn all these events, mouse events, keyboard events, how to handle them. That we'll see in next session. Right? In the next session, we are now going to design some examples. Right? By using two-way binding technique, we are going to learn designing some complex examples. We will see how to work with APIs and design the complex examples. Next session, we will do that. And the next session tomorrow, we have only doubt session. Tomorrow, only doubt session. Only doubt session we will have tomorrow, not regular session. Only doubts, both online and offline, we have only doubts. Doubts means when course will finish, how many days it will take. Don't come with such nonsense doubts. Doubts means till now what topics you learned, in those topics while practicing, if you have any issues, only those. Others we don't entertain. Right? So other doubts, I don't take anything here. Only till the topics you learned, any issues are there, those doubts we will clarify. Tomorrow entire session will be only doubt session, no regular session. Again, regular session will be on Monday. And we are planning for a workshop for people who don't have complete knowledge of JavaScript. We are planning a workshop for JavaScript topics. Right? So if you are interested, you can enroll for that workshop. We will announce about that workshop into your classroom. Right? In that workshop, we will have knowledge of some JavaScript concepts, which generally people may miss in different places while learning. Those are important for modern React-like technologies. Those topics we will have like a workshop, right? I will announce that and I will get you know about it. So tomorrow's session is all about doubts for online and offline. Okay.